South African, a very warm welcome to you. This is Afternoon Express. My name is Jeannie D, and I trust that you are having a gorgeous afternoon. Now, since the beginning of the year, news headlines have been dominated by the new coronavirus. Worldwide panic has set in, and now the first few cases in South Africa have been reported. But in the modern day of fake news and misinformation, how do we find the facts? Well, that's what today's show is all about, and we've brought in a number of experts on the topic to discuss from all angles. If you'd like to add to the conversation, then please do make sure to head over to our social media platforms and send us all of your questions using the hashtag Afternoon Express.
Good afternoon, South Africa. Indeed, Jeannie, such a crucial topic that we're tackling in the studio today. But in the kitchen, we're tackling something as important, which is hunger. And we've got our chef, Dumi, here, who's going to talk us through today's recipe.
Yes, darling. So today we've got a nice light chicken salad that we're going to be making. And we're going to be baking the chicken in the oven with a nice Clover classic dressing. So that's what we're doing today. Nice and light, but very tasty.
Very tasty, very nutritious, and something you have to try at home. And if you'd like to do that, simply SMS the word CLOVER to 33650. SMSs are charged at R1.50 and free SMSs do not apply. But for now, we have to head over to the couch where Jeannie has the first guest lined up.
So before we start on today's coronavirus, we're going to speak about another medical issue that a lot of us sometimes suffer with. And many of us, unfortunately, deal with some form of body pain. And for some, it's more common than others. Whether it's a dull or a sharp pain in your back or your head, dealing with pain can be extremely frustrating and sometimes even quite debilitating. So we now have Dr. Darren Green to chat about most common types of pain and how we should be treating it. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Judy. Thank you.
Lovely to have you back. So what is pain?
Pain is a noxious stimuli that tells you that the balance has been disturbed. It has a function to tell you that something is under threat and that something is going afay, basically, in the body. So you need to obviously listen to that signal, and some of us have learned incredible techniques of suppressing that pain rather than using the warning sign that that something is actually wrong.
Yeah. You know what I've often thought about, actually, that fascinates me quite a bit, is how do you measure pain? Like, for example, if my pain threshold is one place and yours is in a completely different place, then how do we know what's painful and what isn't? Like, because something could be quite painful to me,
Absolutely.
But not to you.
Absolutely,
So
and it differs. And how do you measure it in children, which is even more interesting. But anyway, in adults, you'll experience that the threshold or tolerance of pain and the interpretation is based on many things. It's based on past experience and a graded experience to the type of pain. And you get different types of pain stimuli, obviously, that lead to the experience at the end of the day. But we use a numeric scale, 0 to 10, but an 8 out of 10 is not the same for different people. So you need to liken it to something specific, like a pinprick, like, for example, stepping onto a sharp rock or stone. Is it that level of intensity or not? So you've got to dissect it down to that level to get a more realistic effect.
Well, can I have to tell you, I had an injection done by my doctor, and I reacted to this little needle.
Out of 10?
So he said to me, he said, girl, you're never having natural childbirth, put it that way. I was like,
Oh, that's
okay, I'm so sore. But now let's speak about all of the most common types of body pain that people do get. What are they?
Sure. So headaches are right at the top as well. And then we have things that are related to our day-to-day activities. Things like musculoskeletal pain, your joints, your muscles. Back pain is massive, obviously. And then we also have skin that's affected. So that type of pain is very sensitive to the receptors on the skin. Heat, temperature, pressure, etc. But then you get other types of pain that affect the joints I've mentioned, and then the gut can give you pain as well. But remember that the gut also has muscle in it. So when you have colicky, cramping, muscular-like pain, it's a different character. And then neurological or nerve-like pain, the electric shock-like waves that shoot down your spine and into your arms and legs also. A very definitive type of history can be taken from the patient.
Funny that you mentioned the gut. I went to a gut specialist recently, and she had asked me if I was having any back pains. So it's so fascinating how different kinds of pains come from different kinds of things. I mean, where does pain come from, really? Like, is it because of, I suppose that's such a broad question. But I mean, how should we treat different things, and should we take it quite seriously when we are in pain? or should we just say, oh, it's sore, but I'll get over it?
Yeah, as I said, so where it comes from is there are highly specialized receptors for the different types of sensations, from itchiness through to burning, through to vibration sense, etc., that are positioned under the skin. And those receptors then can send a signal. So pressure, the light pressure, for example, might not be perceived as painful, but you go deeper and deeper and you can elicit pain by pressing harder and harder. That signal then is transferred to the brain for interpretation. Sometimes there are mechanisms where it can actually, your response can bypass the brain, like putting your hand on a hot plate, for example. Your reflex reaction is to pull away. Without so much of a thought, there's a reflex reaction that's developed over time to protect us, to survive longer. But when it does go to the brain then facilitates codes, what type of pain is this? And then it devises, obviously, based on memory, based on experience, based on your emotional condition at the time, based on the temperature even, and other conditions, it interprets the type of pain and then it distributes, obviously, to that site, either a stimulating anti-inflammatory effect or a motor instruction to move your body position, or etc., etc.
You mentioned headaches earlier. How do you know when a headache isn't just a headache?
So one of the big differentiating features is a thunderclap headache. So when a headache comes on...
That's quite
like
graphic. I've just
in other words, the intensity from having a 10 out of 10 headache, I'm speaking about within a minute, that's not normal. Having a headache that comes on like a typical tension-type headache, etc., after a long day with tight shoulders and neck, a bit of neck spasm.
Yeah, normal.
That's that in the afternoons, you know, that you can feel, and the history is quite clear. But when you have a thunderclap headache, that lightning bolt, it could signify, for example, an aneurysm or a bleed in the brain. Migraines, on the other hand, are very specific. They've got, we've got over 50 types of migraines, but understanding that they also have associated symptoms like the nausea, like the prodromal aura with the visual disturbance or scintillations, and then obviously the residual features after the migraine.
Amazing. Thank you so much for coming in today and telling us a little bit about pain. I'm sure we'll see you soon. Now, for those of you who are experiencing these types of pain, remember to always visit your pharmacist, and in more serious cases, visit a medical professional who can assist you in how to best relieve the pain that you are suffering from.
So after the break, we turn our attention to the new coronavirus and separate fact from fiction. But we all know that one best way to protect yourself from illness is a healthy diet. So in the kitchen, we'll be whipping up a very healthy baked chicken salad that is jam-packed, filled with flavors. See you after the break.
Clover fresh milk is the #1 milk brand in SA. Made with love by Clover.
Welcome back to Afternoon Express, where we are about to whip up the lightest, most flavorful meal, all on live television. Now, are you struggling to keep up with the Joneses? Well, we say sometimes only the classics will do. And our classic baked chicken salad is one of those recipes that will never go out of style. So SMS the keyword Clover to 33650 to get this recipe sent to your device. SMSs cost R1.50 and free SMSs do not apply. Now, Tumi, I want to show the viewers how quick and easy this recipe takes. That's why I've promised them that we can put this all together right now on the show.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
All right, awesome. So we're going to start with our yogurt-based dairy snack from Clover Classic. And what we're going to start by doing is we're making an actual dressing that's going to go on top of the chicken, as well as going to be the main dressing for our salad as well.
Beautiful.
So I'm just going to start with a couple of tablespoons of my yogurt-based dairy snack here, and then I'm going to go in with some red onions.
Okay.
As well as some chili, some red chilies, paprika, as well as some lemon zest.
Delicious. So, Tumi, this is basically just going to be the coating for our chicken breast. It's helping to keep it moist, but still packing in that flavor.
Correct. But we're also going to blend it down and becomes the dressing for the actual salad itself, for the leaves as well. So we're basically using one ingredient in two ways.
I love that.
Imparting flavor into the actual chicken, and then on top of that, we're then dressing our leaves as well with it.
And the creaminess of this, of the Clover Classic, just helps balance this meal in such a perfect way.
Basically, that's what we're trying to do here. You know, we're all about flavors on the show. We're all about making sure people can use our ingredients in a versatile way, not just one way.
Oh, and you know, midweek, you want something that is easy, something that is light to just whip up in one go. And this is something that you can definitely try.
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
So I'm just going to put our dressing on top of the chicken here. And then we're going to put this into the oven. It is best because with all that's going around now with people getting sick and stuff, it is best to ensure that you always have to make sure your chicken is cooked fully.
Yes.
We don't want people getting sick. So I always advise to at least cook it for 30 minutes, and the oven mustn't be opened. Put it in the oven, then cook it, forget about it for 30 minutes, and then come back to it. And then as long as the liquid from the actual chicken runs clear, then you know your chicken is cooked.
So essentially what you just have to do is put that timer on, forget about it, trust it to do its work, carry on with your life. But by the time they come back after the 30 minutes, it'll be ready to go.
Basically, yes.
Beautiful.
So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this chicken from the actual baked dish here, because I need you to do something for me with the actual dressing here. Okay, so we're going to do this.
And then there's still so much left over, so we don't want to waste that.
No, not at all. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put all these ingredients in here. You can actually get started with the salad for us. Just mix in the veggies over there.
Now, I'm a pro salad doer because basically you're just throwing in everything. And we've got our lettuce leaves here as the base. We've got some beautiful peas that Dumi has already prepared for us pre-show. And then I'm going to go in with the cherry tomatoes, looking so delicious. Adding also that burst of colour that we need. Making sure we got our 7 colours all ticked off. And then the beetroot.
Yes. So obviously, like I mentioned, people are in a panic right now about making sure they get all their nutrients and their immune systems are strong and all of that. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to pack as much flavour and nutrients into whatever dish you're having. So our chicken is high in protein, our veggies are high in nutrients as well. So if you would like to also change it up and add different kinds of veggies that you like and enjoy, but also that are high in antioxidants, like things like broccoli, you know, even with the spicing of the chicken, if you'd like to add perhaps turmeric, which is also high in antioxidants, you could do that as well. As long as, obviously, the flavors stay. As long as it's flavorful, do what you think is best for you.
That's what we love about it. Okay, so whilst you're whipping that up, I mean, what I love about this recipe is that you can substitute whatever ingredients you want to substitute with those power foods that you know. Of course, Domi already mentioned turmeric. Turmeric would be such a beautiful addition to this.
Perfect.
Love that. Okay.
Right, so I'm going to give you some of this dressing over here, and you can toss it into your salad over there. And then what I'm going to do is just cut up our chicken, and then we're going to plate up our dish over there. Because you look beautiful as always, I'd like you to make our plate beautiful as well.
Okay, all right. I hope everyone has noticed I'm a little bit of a Valentine today with this red, so we're channeling love, we're channeling health to all those that are feeling a little under the weather today. Hopefully this recipe is going to turn your frown upside down and bring the shine back into your day. There we go.
Perfect. Awesome. So you can get started over there while I finish up with our chicken over here.
Beautiful. And then, Dumi, as you said, okay, with this recipe, how versatile can we go? Also with the protein that we use. I mean, a lot of our viewers, on Monday, we're going meat-free, making sure that we are celebrating with all of our Hindu viewers at home.
Yes.
But then, basically, this recipe, you can just mix and match, just as long as you've got your Clover Classic Custard.
Correct. Yeah, so you could even use, if you're trying to not put any meat in the actual dish, you could use chickpeas as well as the base of your salad as well. So replace the chicken with chickpeas, replace the chicken with fish. It's completely up to you. It's just basically trying to pack as much of those nutrients into your system as possible.
You'd have that.
Perfect, all right, and that's it. And then obviously once you eat it, you just toss it all together and that's your dish ready to go.
Ready to go, looking delicious. I'm definitely going to be snacking on this during the commercial break. Remember to SMS the keyword Clover to 33650 to get this recipe sent to your device. But if you may have missed any of the steps, here's a quick recap.
Made with love by Clover.
Clover Fresh Milk is the #1 milk brand in SA. Made with love by Clover. Now, coronavirus is probably the most used word in the media since the beginning of the year, with more than 100,000 cases confirmed worldwide. Global panic has set in, but how do we separate the facts from the fiction? So today, we are looking at the topic from all angles, and we've brought in the experts. Joining us now is infectious disease specialist, Dr. Emille Reid. And of course, if you would like to add to the conversation, please make sure that you head over to our social media platforms and send us your questions using the hashtag Afternoon Express. Hello, Doctor. How are you?
I'm very well. And yourself?
Lovely to have you on the show. Something that I wasn't
much.
aware of was that this actually isn't the first coronavirus that we've had. Coronavirus is apparently the name given to a whole lot of different viruses. So what is the coronavirus?
Well, the coronavirus is what we call a zoonotic disease, which means it gets carried around by animals. And as you may be aware, you also had previous outbreaks of viral diseases, specifically coronavirus, that was similar to the one we have now. Yeah. For instance, SARS, way back in 2002, and then also MERS, which was also a coronavirus infection in 2012, 2013. And both of them originated in different animals, whereas SARS originated from cats and MERS originated from camels. The new one that we're referring to at this moment in time is called the SARS-CoV-2 virus, and it causes COVID disease, as people call it. And the problem is that it's completely different than the previous virus outbreaks. Not because it's a coronavirus, and also originated in animals. We actually don't know where it really originated, whether it was fish or bats or wherever.
Yeah, I read pangolins and bats.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we at this moment in time, we are not sure. But this is a brand new, novel coronavirus that is causing havoc.
It is causing havoc. I mean, there is literally worldwide panic. We're seeing countries like Italy has shut down. Harvard University has now taken all of their classes online so that people don't have to come into lectures. Coachella's cancelled.
Yes.
Should there be such reason for such panic? I mean, are we going to be okay? I mean, I read an article recently saying that it's just a little bit worse than the flu. How bad is it?
Yeah, I think there's always reason to panic.
Yeah.
But I think what's been happening nowadays have been mild hysteria. To say the least. And if one compared to the common flu, obviously with the flu we have way more cases of influenza on a yearly basis than what we have corona infections.
Yeah.
And also if you compare that to the flu, you find that the fatality rate or the death rate is actually more than that of the flu.
Yeah.
So currently we estimate around about 2 to 3% of people die due to the novel coronavirus infection, as opposed to 1% with regards to influenza.
Okay.
And also, if we compare the amount of cases that we've seen with, for instance, SARS, we had a total of about 8,000 cases, whereas currently with COVID disease, we are, I think, around about 106,000 cases.
Right.
So this is massive. And in comparison to SARS, which had a sort of fatality rate around about 5-6%, as opposed to MERS, which had a much higher 30% fatality rate. Currently, with this novel coronavirus, we're sitting between 2 and 3%.
Okay. Now, I read that it's a respiratory virus. So what does that mean? Like, imagine I'm walking through an airport and somebody coughs on me and then I get it. What are going to be the symptoms, and how far gone or how far along the line do I figure out that I actually have it?
Yeah. I think at this moment in time, we're still learning a lot about this new virus. But what we do know, that initially transferred from an animal to human, and now there's human-to-human transfer. Usually droplet transmission, which mean coughing, sneezing, etc. So if you are a meter and a half away from somebody coughing or sneezing, you should be safe.
Yeah.
And what we don't know and understand about this virus is, how long is this virus airborne? Does it sit on our cell phones? Can we carry it in our on our hands, etc.? And the answer is, in all likelihood, yes.
Okay.
And you did see a lot of people wearing masks wherever they go. We're actually not quite sure what the efficacy rate of those masks are, because we know you can also transfer the virus through your eyes, touching of your nose, etc.
Okay.
So wearing a mask does not 100% actually protect you from acquiring the virus.
How quickly does this spread, though? Like, I mean, if you're not going to be wearing a mask and stuff, something simple as me touching a table that somebody had touched, they've got corona. I mean, am I going to get it necessarily?
Well, the answer to that is we don't know.
Okay.
We do believe, however, that those people that are infected, at least those with flu-like symptoms, at least, are people who can transmit the virus to somebody else.
Okay.
And usually it's a direct sort of spread rather than contact, cell phones, etc.
Yeah.
So it's usually a direct spread. And how long the virus is surviving in the air, we don't know.
Right.
But usually, looking at the previous epidemics, probably not.
Okay. So until we know more, I'm going to stop eating bats and kissing frogs.
Yes, exactly.
All right, let's find out at home what you had to say on our social media platforms. All right, let's see what social media's got for us.
Yep, we've asked you if you have anything else to add to this conversation. And we've got Matapelo, who said, what are the signs and symptoms that one has the coronavirus? What safety precautions can one take to prevent being infected with coronavirus?
Well, easy. The important thing is that you might just have normal flu if you have the coronavirus infection. Mild flu, and only a small percentage of people actually become extremely ill.
Okay.
Coughing, developing respiratory distress, pneumonia. And we do know that those people are usually classically the vulnerable individuals.
Okay.
Above the age of 60, 65, those that have chronic diseases like lung diseases, diabetes, or previous tuberculosis, and even smokers have a higher risk.
So if you've got a strong immune system, you're going to be fine?
Yes.
Okay. Pali, we okay?
that those immune systems are all the way up. We've got Layla here with another question. She asks, how can we protect our kids from the school environment, which is very important?
Well, I think the important thing is, and people don't believe that, it's usually the history of whether somebody has toured anywhere that has a coronavirus infection. For instance, if people have been to Italy, if they have been to China, that's probably the most important thing to know, because people that have been exposed should not be around other people, and they should be quarantined for at least 2 weeks.
Okay.
So knowing whether somebody else has coronavirus or not is actually extremely difficult, because the symptoms just overlaps with the flu.
Wow. Thank you very much for coming through to us today, Doctor. And
Thank you very much.
We're going to be back at the end of the show chatting more about it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Prevention is always better than cure. Now, the conversation continues after the break. If you have any questions for our experts, just head over to our social media platforms and make sure to use the hashtag Afternoon Express. See you after the break.
Next time on Tropical Island of Treasure Curacao. After some dramatic twists in the first week of team challenges, it's time for the first elimination.
What?
Now we get to see who will double-cross who.
What was the strategy? We're not a threat.
Betrayal always comes from those closest to you.
How do you play this game with an honest heart?
Catch Tropical Island of Treasure Curacao Tuesdays at 7:30 p.m. Repeat Saturdays at 8 p.m. only on SABC3.
Welcome back to Afternoon Express, and of course today's Wednesday show is dedicated to learning more about the coronavirus. Now, before the break we learned some of the important facts about the new coronavirus, and of course we are now joined by family practitioner Dr. Layla Bhikoo, who is here to share some practical advice on how to keep ourselves and our families safe. And of course, if you would like to add to the conversation, then please make sure you head over to our social media platforms, send us a question and use your hashtag Afternoon Express. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you.
So we learned before the break that we are not entirely certain of the efficacy of those masks that people are travelling with, because I suppose that makes a lot of sense. If you are sitting on a plane, you remove it to eat or something, you've put your hands on it and it's just going to be contaminated as much as anything else.
Yeah, I think it gives people a false sense of security,
Yeah.
especially if you're not wearing the mask properly, or it's an ill-fitting mask, or you're taking it off, as you said, putting it back on. You're touching other surfaces in between, and people aren't going to be as careful with their hand washing. So they might remove the mask, eat something, touch a surface, and then unknowingly touch their face before putting the mask on again. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, it works as a very good preventative or mechanical sort of prevention in you spreading it.
Yeah.
But with regards to contracting it, it might not be as effective.
Yeah. Let's go to, if you are found that you do have coronavirus, what actually plays out in your body when you have it?
So it's basically similar to your flu-like symptoms. So it's a respiratory it's a respiratory disease. So it's going to affect you the same way your flu-like illnesses are, and your other coronaviruses are going to affect you. So you're going to get your cough, you're going to get the flu-like symptoms where your muscles ache, you can get shortness of breath or difficulty breathing, you're going to feel tired. And then it can play out to the more severe forms. And the more severe forms are things like your severe pneumonias, your acute respiratory distress syndromes, sepsis and septic shock. And those can also obviously then lead to death. And I think that is sort of the sequelae of the more severe forms of it. Okay. But I don't think people should focus too much on that. I think there's so much hysteria about the severe forms, but everybody's sort of forgetting just the common flu-like symptoms that you are going to experience in the beginning.
Exactly. You know, I think with the travelling, even if you don't get coronavirus, I think just if you have to be, separated from your family, if you have been on a plane with people that do, I mean, it can really, really disrupt your life.
Exactly.
And there isn't a known cure yet?
No, so there's no vaccines available, and a lot of people are asking, especially in GP practice, if I get the influenza vaccine, which is available sort of towards the end of March, am I going to be protected? And it's a common myth amongst a lot of people. They're saying, okay, so I'm going to get the influenza vaccine now, or I'm going to take an antibiotic. Is it going to protect me? That is not. So the influenza vaccine is specific for the influenza that's common this time of the year. Your antibiotic obviously will only work on your bacterial infections, not your viral infections. But what I am telling my patients, especially at the practice now, because you have so many people coming in with these questions, is do get your influenza vaccine. It's not going to prevent you from getting the coronavirus, but it is going to alleviate the confusion of, do I have corona or do I have influenza? And also it decreases the burden on healthcare if you do get your influenza vaccines. And we know that you don't have, influenza.
Yeah. How are people tested for corona versus influenza?
So it is basically the same. You'll do the nasopharyngeal aspirate. So you'll go to your healthcare professional or you'll go to your nearest lab and they'll take swabs, and then obviously they'll do something called a PCR on those, and they'll detect which viruses you have.
Okay. So today I read that if you do have coronavirus, or if you think you do, you shouldn't go to your doctor.
No, exactly.
What should you be doing instead?
So the reasoning behind not going to your doctor is, if you are going to sit in your doctor's consultation rooms, you are going to expose firstly your doctor, and then also all the patients in the rooms. If you expose your doctor, if we test positive, we have to, or if we are in contact, we have to be out of our practice for 2 weeks.
Totally.
Which can completely, it affects the whole healthcare system. So the best thing to do is, if you feel that you are a positive contact for the coronavirus, is to actually contact the NICD. They have the contact details online, or just phone your nearest doctor and ask them, what exactly do I do?
Yeah.
So rather pick up the telephone. They will definitely be able to give you advice, or the NICD hotline.
We have that number on our screens right now. So if you do think that you have the coronavirus, please do give them a call. And then what will they do? Will they send somebody with a test for you?
So no, they will sort of facilitate that the testing gets done.
Okay.
So they will either send you to the nearest lab, or they will get in contact with a healthcare professional that is able to do the testing, so that healthcare professional also takes the necessary precautions and also gives you a mask to wear so that you're not, infecting any other people also.
Okay.
While doing so.
Okay. And then what happens from there if you do have coronavirus? I think at the moment what's happening with a lot of people is that they're being quarantined at home.
So, yeah, it depends on, obviously, the severity of it. So there are some of the patients have been self-isolated. And then, obviously, there are certain facilities where, so be it state or private facilities, where the patients are going to be quarantined until the infectious state is over. So at the moment, the research is showing, or it's actually just presumed, that the infectious state is for as long as you are symptomatic. So we are waiting till patients are asymptomatic, and then they are free.
Good to know. I've learned a lot today already. Thank you very much. All right, let's cross over and see what you at home want to know.
We've asked you on our socials if you have anything to add to the conversation, and we have Avosa, who said, I overheard that the virus can be passed through the air that we breathe, and if that is true, what precautions do we need to take to stay safe at all times? Most symptoms that can what symptoms, I guess, can we guarantee that you can identify if the person has the coronavirus?
Okay, so at the moment, according to the National Institute for Communicable Diseases, the guidelines are that it is not an airborne disease. It is more a droplet spread. So say now somebody sneezes, touches something, and then you touch it and put it basically on your mucosal membranes with your eyes, your nose, your mouth. That is how it spreads. So it's not if I breathe next to you necessarily that you're going to get it. Okay, so it's more by droplet spread, not by airborne spread. And then the symptoms that patients can expect if they do believe that they have coronavirus is, like I said before, the flu-like symptoms. So your cough, your fever, body aches and pains, tiredness. So those are your common sort of symptoms. And like I said, they are common to a whole host of respiratory conditions.
But droplet spread can drop quickly. Like, I remember a story with my makeup artist, and she was chatting to this guy who was a chronic spitter. And what happened was he spat while he was speaking, and it landed in her mouth. So she panicked. She sprayed her mouth with alcohol. It was hilarious. But no, it's
so droplet spread, exactly, and that's why we say, so especially if you're traveling on an airline, if, say, one of the persons tested positive, they would look in a 2-meter sort of radius around you, and those would be also deemed positive contacts. So 2 rows either way.
That spreads, yeah. All right, what's our next comment?
Who asked, hi, since they say that the virus is accurate or accelerated in surface and hot temperature, I think she's trying to say that if you're in contact with hot surfaces, what should you do and what tips do you require for us to get infected?
Yeah, does it prefer any temperature?
There hasn't been any evidence stating whether it prefers certain temperatures. I'm sure that, those things will all come to light as the disease evolves and we get a bit more information. It's still quite early days. I mean, it's only been around for a few months now, so we're still gathering data to see what exactly the conditions are.
Thank you very much for being here. We've learned a whole lot more, and we've still got more to come when it comes to COVID.
Absolutely, Jeannie. Now, after the break, we take a global look at the coronavirus. Should we be avoiding international travel? And what about our pets and the food that we eat? Can they be contaminated too? Well, if you have any questions of your own to add to this, just head over to our social media platforms and make sure to use the hashtag Afternoon Express.
Find your smooth fortune with Tropica. Buy a Tropica, follow the entry details on the pack, and stand a chance to win your share of 1 million rand in prizes, such as a trip for 2 with KLM to Amsterdam, LG G8 phones, TVs and dishwashers, guest vouchers, watches and accessories, plus the smooth grand prize of a Suzuki Ignis. The more Tropica you buy, the more chances you have to win. Tropica, nothing smoother.
Welcome back to Afternoon Express, where we are now bringing you part 3 of our coronavirus exclusive. We've learned some really interesting facts about the coronavirus today, and we've chatted about hygiene best practice to help keep you and your family safe. But when it comes to travelling abroad, things get a little tricky. And what about the pets that we have, or the food that we eat that's been imported from other countries? We are now joined by Dr. Amaan Panday. If you would like to add anything to the conversation again, please make sure that you head to our social media platforms, and of course always use the hashtag Afternoon Express when you want to send us a question. Welcome to the show, Doctor.
Thank you.
So, I mean, what we know at the moment from the coronavirus is that the greatest or the fastest way of it being spread is obviously through international travel. So airports must be radical hotspots for any kind of disease and viruses. Is that the main way to contract it now?
So essentially you have to have contact with the confirmed case of the virus itself. So the COVID-19, as we know, there's multiple areas in the world that has high population groups infected with the disease.
Yeah.
So China specifically, we know about South Korea, we know about Italy. So these areas, if you are traveling to those areas specifically, you are going to be high risk for contracting COVID-19. Despite the quarantine measures, you're still going to be exposed because there's a number of patients that haven't been diagnosed as yet.
Yeah. So I've already cancelled a trip. But, I mean, where are we sitting with travel? Should we be cancelling our trips? Are we going to be safe on aeroplanes and running through airports? Is travel really high risk at the moment? Or can we still book that flight?
So the general hygiene measures still apply. Like my colleagues before me have mentioned, hand washing is so important.
Yeah.
Using soap and water or alcohol-based hand sanitizers. Of course, not being in contact with patients or people that have symptoms, respiratory symptoms, as we've mentioned, or a fever. And then for the elderly patients, the patients with any other chronic diseases, it's very important for them, ideally, not to travel.
Okay.
Because they are the high-risk group.
Okay. What about kids? Do kids fit high-risk groups?
So, fortunately, at this stage, pregnancy, kids specifically, we advocate for general hygiene.
Yeah.
However, the older patients have been the population most affected and the highest death rate amongst those patients specifically.
Okay. Now, what are airports across the world looking like at the moment? Are they still doing those heat temperature sensors as you walk in everywhere? Or how are airports kind of safeguarding the fact that they don't want the virus, obviously, to spread through them?
So that is a bit tricky because current evidence doesn't actually show that checking people coming in, whether they're asymptomatic or not. So when patients are asymptomatic, they don't have symptoms of the disease.
Yeah.
So when checking these patients, it doesn't actually prevent the spread of COVID-19 or the virus itself. So what is actually more important is to inform those arriving passengers of the symptoms and what to do if they do develop the symptoms.
Okay. Then other than the bats that I'm not going to be eating anymore and the frogs that I'm going to try and stop kissing, what about our animals? How safe are animals? Like, what happens if I've got coronavirus and I cough on a dog? Is my dog going to then get corona too?
So there's multiple species of coronavirus.
Yeah.
The COVID-19 specifically hasn't really shown to be going between different animals, nor between animals and humans themselves. So our companion animals, specifically our cats and dogs, cannot infect us, and they also will not be affected. However, they can be affected by the other types of coronavirus, but there's no cross-species contamination at this stage.
Now, I know, Shame, like China is going through the worst at the moment, and I know it's really affecting their economy and business. So what happens if we are importing things from China, food products, textiles, any kind of online deliveries, when they come to South Africa and the postman delivers it, how safe are those packages?
So I think a very important question. And currently we've got a great regulatory system in terms of food and health specifically. So all these products get screened at the border prior to coming in.
Okay.
So there's no evidence currently that any of these products that are imported has actually been or is contaminated with the presence of COVID-19.
Okay. And food products, fine?
Food, absolutely
So we're not getting sick from eating any kind of particular...
Fortunately not. Okay. So we briefly mentioned, or one of my colleagues mentioned earlier, about the virus actually being on surfaces, for example. the contamination of food products, there's no evidence that the disease actually gets transmitted via food.
Okay.
So fortunately, we're safe still.
So it's actually just like droplets from your mouth. So no kissing. That's it. That's why it's actually quite bad in Italy, because Italians can't keep their hands off each other. It's true.
So true.
Oh well. Let's see what you at home have got to ask.
Absolutely. We've asked you if you have anything to add to this conversation, and we have Sindiso who asked, would using waterless sanitizer when on the go do the trick of keeping the virus off your hands?
Definitely. So essentially, alcohol-based hand sanitizer, you'd like to clean your hands thoroughly and regularly. That's the most important.
Yeah.
So the virus is very sensitive to any alcohol-based solution.
I read that alcohol is actually killing coronavirus.
So I wouldn't advise it to spray it in your mouth, but yeah, decontaminating surfaces and your hands, very important, yes.
Okay. Amazing. Good to know. I'm basically pickled, so I'm good.
I know a lot of our viewers are like, oh, no, I thought I had it. We've got Ryan Brandsley Carter here who asks, good day, Afternoon Express. We've been told to wash our hands regularly and sanitize surfaces. We've been told about being in the sun a lot because the virus is not resilient to heat. What about our hair? When we wash our bodies, we wash them daily. But our hair, can the virus rather be transferred through the hair, and not necessarily the coronavirus, but any virus in general? Also, can our animals be affected, which you've answered? There are patients being recorded that have been tested daily, but what about our animals? So you've already touched on the animals, but what about our hair? Does our hair carry any viruses?
So, I mean, there's a multitude of viruses and bacteria within your body, on the surface of your body, in the surrounding area. So these viruses are kept in check.
Okay.
These bacteria are also kept in check by your natural immune system.
Okay.
So yes, there does exist viruses and bacteria on the body.
Yeah.
In the body as well, but these are kept in check.
Okay.
And it's only once you have this novel virus that has this propensity or the pathogenicity to infect you, to cause you to become ill, that it's a problem.
So even if her wig was bought from China, she's going to be fine?
She'll be fine.
Okay. Thank you very much, Doctor.
No
Thank you very much for coming through. We're going to see you on the couch a little bit later for more chats.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Noted, Jeannie, noted. Now, after the break, we're back with all of our medical experts to answer your questions. Just head over to our social media platforms and make sure to use the hashtag Afternoon Express. See you after these.
Looking for immune support? Remain at your peak all year round with Immuenza.
Welcome back to Afternoon Express for our final part of our coronavirus exclusive. So today we are chatting all things coronavirus, of course, and we are back on the couch now with our expert doctors, Dr. Emille Reid, Dr. Layla Bhikoo, and Dr. Amaan Panday.
If you would like to add to the conversation or ask any questions, just head over to our social media platforms and send your questions using the hashtag Afternoon Express. Guys and girl, welcome back again. As we wrap up this conversation, I mean, we've already hit so many crucial points that I think South Africa needed to hear, especially in this moment of crisis and panic. But if you are unfortunately diagnosed with the coronavirus and you've got a full family, mentally, emotionally, what do people need to do? Obviously, get tested. We know the things that we've already spoken about, but on a very realistic daily circumstance, like how does one deal?
So I think you need to take it back, case by case, you know, sort of level, and look at each patient individually. And make sure that you counsel them properly, counsel them that, you know, we are quarantining you, not only for your own safety, but for the safety of your family and for the safety of the community. And just, you know, enlighten them, make them really informed about why this decision is being taken to isolate them. Because we have to be aware that, you know, telling somebody to isolate them does take away from their human right to just walk around in the community. But I think an informed patient is a better equipped patient.
Yeah. I think a lot of the panic is maybe coming from the fact that there isn't yet a immunization or a vaccine or a cure. Why is it taking so long? And I mean, what is the process to coming up with this kind of said cure?
If we look at developing a vaccine, it normally takes about a year to 18 months in order to get a very effective vaccine, and which by no means is going to happen now or this year, at this moment in time. And I think that instead of looking at finding a cure or finding a vaccine now, we should actually look at the facts. And one should actually take that fear out of the disease by educating ourselves. And also realize by standing together, even with something as simple as a hand-washing technique, we can actually rid the world of coronavirus disease.
But I mean, what is the rest of the world look at? What is the rest of the year looking like with countries shutting down? I mean, this has to somehow come to an end.
Well, it will. And it will. And the only way to stop it and to contain it is what we've done with SARS and MERS, and that is to unfortunately put people into quarantine and not allow this virus to spread, and for all of us to take hands and work together to make sure that that does not happen.
And do that without actually taking hands.
One of our social media viewers, and thank you so much for all of the comments and the questions and just contributing to the conversation online. So much appreciated. And we always say there's no such thing as a stupid question. So I just have to say this for everyone at home who's a bit concerned. Yeah, I'm a bit cold. Oh, it's touching. But someone did ask that in the African community, amongst the Black South Africans, there's a mentality or this notion that this is not our disease. This is nothing for us to worry about. I mean, we obviously know here that there are no cultural barriers when it comes to a virus like this. But what...
Corona's not a racist.
Exactly.
I think that's quite important to know, that infections does not discriminate. You know, if you're exposed, whether you're white, black, yellow, it doesn't matter. You will get the disease, you know? So you have to take precautions.
Thank you.
And I think everyone needs to be aware of the hygiene tips that we've mentioned during the segment. And coronavirus.
The main hygiene tips: washing hands, hands, just everywhere you go, or have an alcohol-based hand washer. Well, don't start packing alcohol in your handbag. That's a genie thing to do. Thank you very much, doctors, for being here today and dispelling so many myths and fears for us. We certainly have learned so very much.
Absolutely. Yeah? Thank you so much. Now join us again tomorrow for another edition of Fashion Express, when we will feature the exquisite work and bridal wear of Janita Terrine. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, she's amazing. She is amazing. So definitely don't miss tomorrow's show. See you tomorrow. Good night and God bless. Mwah.
Afternoon Express, made with love by Clover.
Another feel-good production.